Hello and a warm welcome to the special edition of this Capital Beat on a day when Lok Sabha has completed its discussion and debate on 75 years of the adoption of the Indian Constitution. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's speech has just got over, and now the House is adjourned to meet on Monday when Rajya Sabha will be discussing on the 75 years of the adoption of the Indian Constitution. Now, what are the major pointers which have come out of Prime Minister Modi's speech? And Rahul Gandhi had already finished his speech in the afternoon. I'll come on that a bit later, but let's discuss what are the major pointers on which Prime Minister Modi has expressed himself. He has praised the makers of the Constitution for recognizing India's ancient democratic traditions. And then he's talked about the women at the center of development. Unity is a cornerstone for growth. And he has said that's what has forced and compelled Modi government to remove Article 370, One Nation, One Grade, Aishuman Bharat. All this is keeping in mind the spirit of unity. And then he begins lambasting Congress. And he lambasts Congress left, right, and center, saying that Congress imposed emergency in 1975, during which the constitutional rights were suspended, democratic values were trampled, to the extent that he said, and I'm going to quote, the sin of emergency can never be erased from Congress's legacy. Then he refers to the Shah Banu case. He talks about the judicial overreach. He speaks about the Section 35 in Article 370. Then Congress's disregard for Ambedkar. That was another point on which he has harped a lot. And then he's given an example as to when Atalji was in power, the government decided to honor him with a memorial, but the UPA ensured that the project does not go ahead. And when we came to power in 2014, we ensured that the memorial is built on the Alipur Road. Then he's talking about Constitution and the Gandhi family, that how Gandhi family has trampled the Constitution. So this is a quintessence of what Prime Minister Modi has said. It was quite unexpected lines, but let's now shift focus to what Rahul Gandhi said. He gave his speech around 2 p.m. today in the Lok Sabha, and he flashed. In one hand, he had the book of the Constitution, the booklet of the Constitution, and on the other hand, he had Manu Smriti. And then what he says is he quotes Savarkar, and then he says that this is what Savarkar had to say about the Constitution. And then he says, and I'm going to quote what exactly he read out, the worst thing about the Constitution of India is that there is nothing Indian about it. Manusmriti is that scripture which is most worshipable after Vedas for our Hindu nation, and from which our ancient times have become the basis of our culture, customs, thought, and practice. This book for centuries has codified the spiritual and divine march of our nation. Today, Manusmriti is law. These are the words of Savarkar. And then he says that, does the entire BJP agree with what Savarkar has said? So this basically has summarized this whole day today when Rahul Gandhi spoke and Prime Minister has just finished his reply in the Lok Sabha. So let's go straight into the discussion and analyze, first of all, Prime Minister Modi's speech. I'll come to you, Raj Lakshmi, first. TK Raj Lakshmi, Senior Deputy Editor from the Frontline, joins us, and Siddharth Sharma, independent media analyst, is also there with us. Thank you, both of you, for joining. And I'll begin with Raj Lakshmi. How would you really decode Prime Minister Modi's speech? Was it on expected lines, or was he very, very acerbic? It could have been much more dignified, but discussing 75 years of the adoption of the Indian Constitution, and the major part of his speech was invested in lambasting Congress and showing how unconstitutional Congress's character and the DNA has been.
Exactly, Nilu. The as I was also saying yesterday, the entire terms of reference of the BJP's understanding of the constitution, or how it sees a constitution at this very epochal period. Okay, 75 years is just in terms looking at the Congress and its failings. How does that anything have to do with the constitution? I mean, today it is you in power. It is a BJP which is sitting in the central government. It has been so there for the last 10 years, and today it is observing. It is sitting in the treasury benches, has of course decided say with consensus of all the other parties, that a two-day debate on the constitution will be had. I'm sure the consensus was not about having a debate on the role of the Congress, isn't it? The whole idea was to have a discussion on the constitution. And when we talk about the constitution, we have to talk about the features, in the fundamental rights. We have to talk about the directive principles. We have to look at how, how have we fared over the last 75 years in implementing, the covenant that is the constitution, which was handed over by the framers of the constitution, and extremely eminent people at that. Now here, instead of looking at what at the concrete achievements of the government, yes, for them, parivarvad is the biggest stumbling stone to the constitution, which is ridiculous, which is reducing the whole debate to a farce. And then to say that abrogation of Article 370 is a big achievement. I mean, it was the biggest subversion of the constitution. The biggest example in which by which the constitution could have been subverted happened. Then the implementation of the CA is counted as as a big achievement. How is having a discriminatory law at all a big achievement? And to say that it's a service to the constitution. So this is a bundle of contradictions, bundle of course, it fits with the BJP's own understanding on Article 370 or on CAA. Again, NEP, you're talking about the national education policy as a big achievement. It is a dossier for the for the privatization of education. I mean, if at all, there is a dossier which completely pushes for the privatization of education at every level. It is a national education policy today. There has been a strong critique of this. Now again, there's no धर्म के आधार पर रिजर्वेशन नहीं होना चाहिए, but धर्म की राजनीति कौन कर रहा है? As of today, who are the people, which are the parties which are doing which are indulging in the politics of religion, or in polarization politics, which is absolutely antithetical to what the constitution lays down and says. And then discrimination on at so many levels. I mean, it's just endless. I mean, for instance, if you just look at, Nilu, the various fundamental rights that are there in a constitution, whether at all have we made any headway to them, whether have we scored anything as far as protecting the right to freedom of speech and expression is concerned. Look at the press freedom index. Where are we? Look at hunger index. Where are we? Look at the food insecurity index. Where are we? Right? I mean, have we ensured health for all? Have we ensured education for all? Have we eradicated child labor? Have we ensured livelihood opportunities for everybody? Instead, we go about bulldozing homes. We do things absolutely. I mean, not we, but I'm saying governments. Which believe that rather than ensuring right to residence, which is also a fundamental right, you'd rather go and bulldoze their homes. Which is absolutely a brazen attack on everything that is constitutional. So here, if I'm saying any government should assess it in all fairness. But if the principal objective is to just target the opposition, so it is not really a debate on the constitution at all. It's a debate on the opposition, on the failings of the opposition. Yeah.
Okay, Pushpraj Deshpande, author of the book called Bharat Jodo Yatra, also joins us. He's working closely with the India Alliance. Thank you, Pushpraj, for joining. I'll come to you a little later. Siddharth, coming to you now. You'll have to unmute yourself. How would you decode Prime Minister Modi's speech? Was it on the expected lines? Did he use the opportunity? He could have used it in a much better way. He started on a very somber note. If you look at the first 12 or 15 minutes of his speech, he was on a very, very slow pace, using a good language, talking highly about, the fabric of the constitution. And then gradually, he picks up the pace on lambasting Congress. And ultimately, at the end of his speech, it just felt as if, he's trying to say that Congress is the most unconstitutional party in the whole country. That's what, at the end of his speech, he has proved.
Yeah, Nilu, let me right at the outset just highlight a few things that the Constitution of India has. The First, the original Constitution of India, very strangely, does not contain two words. One word is called as a political party. The whole entire nomenclature called a political party doesn't exist in the original text of the Constitution. The second nomenclature, the exact name that doesn't exist in the Constitution of India, is something called as an organization. An association is mentioned, but an organization, the entire word organization doesn't exist in the Constitution, neither does a political party exist. I think that is why when a voter goes to vote, whenever in front of him there is a ballot or an EVM, you will see that that has a serial number, that has the name of the candidate, that has a symbol of the candidate as well as a photograph, but a political party's name is not present on the ballot paper. That essentially shows that a political party itself is a non-entity as far as constitution is concerned. So Mr. Modi saying that Congress is anti-constitutional, he is essentially saying that BJP is also anti-constitutional. I would not say anti-constitutional, it is extra-constitutional. That word itself is extra-constitutional. Now coming to the main point here, even as I respect every parliamentarian who is singing paeans today on the constitution, the fact remains that the constitution belongs to we the people, and that constitution guarantees certain things like life, liberty and education to every citizen. Now, strangely, India's crime rate is going up. For example, Delhi crime rate is 3 times higher than India's crime rate. Businessmen, be it in Mumbai or in Delhi or in Uttar Pradesh, everywhere are getting extortion calls. Comedians are getting kidnapped. So that is the status of the liberty. Uh, the third is 7 lakh students, as per the government's own admissions, have dropped out of school education in Uttar Pradesh. Now, isn't all these an admission of abject failure to uphold the constitution from the BJP government itself? It is in power for the last 10 years. Constitution is a path that has to be walked upon. It is not a document that can be talked upon. Now, juxtapose this with other regional parties in India, how they have performed constitutionally. For example, if you go to Tamil Nadu, the healthcare of Tamil Nadu is far better than India's healthcare. The local body, the village panchayat system is far better in Kerala than the rest of India. A border state like Punjab being handled by a small party like Aam Aadmi Party, the crime rate of Punjab is 1.5 times lower than India's crime rate. Now, isn't it strange that it's the regional parties who are upholding the constitution, whereas the party which is in power for the last 10 years, that is not upholding the constitution. It is like बीजेपी संविधान को तो मानती है लेकिन संविधान की नहीं मानती है. जैसे राम जी के बारे में भी हम लोग यही बोलते थे, जब वो राम मंदिर की बात कर रहे थे तो राम को तो मानती है भाजपा, लेकिन राम की कभी मानते हुए नहीं देखी. राम की मानती तो ब्रिजभूषण शरण सिंह को अपने पास नहीं रखते. तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल, a basic thing, the Constitution of India's Article 1 says that India is a union of states. And in the last 10 years, in India, the number of states have decreased and the number of union territories have increased. Isn't it anti-constitutional? You are violating the article, exactly the Article 1 of the Constitution. For example, something like the 74th Amendment of the Constitution. Constitution, as we know, is a dynamic document. It's like economics. The salary that I get today, 10 years down the line, I will not be able to sustain on the same salary. It has to increase. Just like my body is growing, a child grows into a man. His physique increases, his body size increases. So Constitution is also a dynamic document. So that is why under the 74th Amendment of the Constitution, the local bodies were incorporated. So the power structure till then was only the parliament and the legislature, that is the state assembly. Below that, there were no units. In the 73rd and the 74th amendments, you brought in municipal corporations as well as village panchayats. Now, strangely, in that Article 243B, it states that there shall be panchayat in every village. That means that formation of a panchayat is compulsory as per the constitution. But in the same 243G, it says that the panchayats may be given rights by the state legislature. So formation is shall. To form a panchayat is compulsory. There is a word called shall. But what the power of that panchayat will be, it will be decided by may with a word called may by the state legislatures.
Right.
So now, as per although there are three units in India as per the constitution, that is the parliament, the state, and the panchayat. But
No, but
according
Siddharth,
to the
what I want to know from you, let's stick on to PM Modi's speech. That has he been able to explain the constitution well, the way it should have been done on an occasion like this? 75 years. He begins very in a somber manner, and then as he goes further, the entire speech descended into so much of hate and animosity for one particular party, one family. The way he starts talking. What would you really say to that? And then I'll come to Pushpraj.
Yeah, the reason is very simple. Constitution defines the maximum power of an individual and the minimum power of the government.
Please.
Unfortunately, the entire BJP ecosystem reads it in reverse. It sees the constitution as maximum power of the government and the minimum power of the citizen. That's why it weaponizes constitution, be it through an electoral bond, be it through giving unconstitutional powers to the PMLA, be it through reducing the number of states and increasing the number of union territories. All these things in different judgments by the Supreme Court have been held unconstitutional. Electoral bond, unconstitutional. Certain acts of the PMLA, unconstitutional. Now, regarding Jammu Kashmir statehood or other statehood, even Delhi statehood, the matter is sub judice. So that essentially shows that for BJP, Constitution, the BJP doesn't see the Constitution as a document of the people. It sees Constitution as a weapon for itself. Now, when you
All
start wielding something as a weapon, obviously you will try to use it, wield it on someone. And right now, BJP seems to be wielding it against the Congress. It's as simple as that.
right. All right. Let me come to Pushpraj. You'll have to unmute yourself, Pushpraj. Uh, Rahul Gandhi also spoke about a lot of things, and the manner in which he began by talking about Savarkar, and then he came on to various other things, Adani, and everything was included in his speech. But now, when you listen to the Prime Minister's speech, what would you really say? Was it? I mean, how would you really rate the Prime Minister's speech, and on an occasion like this?
Neeluji, a very good evening to you, my fellow panelists, and our audience. Firstly, through the course of the debate commemorating India's constitution, Prime Minister Modi has finally negated two of RSS's unstated core beliefs that it has held for the last 75 years. Namely, that the Indian constitution is not civilizationally Indian, it is alien, and something that the Congress party imposed onto India. Today, eschewing his own Sangh Parivar training, the Prime Minister Modi repeatedly said that our constitution is civilizationally Indian, and even went so far as to praise India's founders for forging a charter that has led to India's development in the last 17 years. Ironically, in doing so, he kept critiquing himself because in the last 11 years, this is what he's been saying, that nothing has happened for the last 75 years, 60 to 70 years. Now, the fact of the matter is he's finally come around to something that the Congress party and the India bloc have been saying for the last 11 years. Contrary to what Golwalkar, Savarkar, and RSS's organizer have asserted repeatedly, Prime Minister Modi quoted three stalwarts: Purushottam Das Tandon, a former Congress president; Dr. Radhakrishnan, a Congress leader and the former president of India; and Dr. Ambedkar, who to say that they have all said that the values enshrined in the Constitution emanated from India's civilization and freedom struggle. It's interesting he quoted two Congress leaders and one RPI leader, all of whom were vehemently opposed to the Sangh and the Manusmriti. It is almost as if Prime Minister Modi, is conceding that his government will now abide by the constitutional idea of India and endorsing what Rahul Gandhi said, right? Secondly, and now let's get to the facts of what Prime Minister Modi said. He spoke about the fact that alluded to the fact that we need to respect India's diversities. Ironically, he's doing this 11 years after livelihoods, cultures, homes, and lives of minorities have been attacked by the Sangh Parivar, often by BJP leaders. After the Home Minister has repeatedly tried to impose one language, one party, and one leader onto India, in saying that there are people who are afflicted by slave mentality, who had problems with India's diversity instead of celebrating it, and work to exacerbate those diversities and differences. I don't think he's critiquing the Congress party or the opposition. He genuinely seems to be critiquing the Sangh Parivar. I think today Mohan Bhagwat is going to give him a really dressing down today. I say this because factually, it was the Sangh that was complicit in the Babri Masjid demolition in 2002. even in 1984 and in countless riots across the last 75 years. It is the Sangh Parivar that organized mass rallies against the Hindu code bills and burned Ambedkar's and Nehru's effigies. And it is the Sangh Parivar's leaders who exhorted the Indian Army to revolt against the armed forces in the 1970s, early 1970s. Thirdly, he spoke about economic unity in his entire speech, but he failed to mention what he and his government have been doing. Even though the 15th Finance Commission mandated that the government devolve 41% of tax revenues, they are now devolving less than 30%. They've reduced their share in central sponsored scheme. They have not extended the due date to GST composition. So I don't know why he is praising the GST composition at all. He also spoke about, Prime Minister Modi also spoke about political unity. Have we not seen how they have toppled 15, 16 elected state governments illegally using Operation Lotus, which is then because of which Home Minister Amit Shah has crowned himself Chanakya, or how they've destroyed federal institutions. He also, Prime Minister Modi, interestingly, also denigrated Prime Minister Nehru, saying he amended the constitution before being elected and curbed free speech. By that logic, that Prime Minister Modi proffered, even the constitution wasn't passed by an elected body. Does Prime Minister Modi think that the constitution is also illegal? Additionally, why doesn't Prime Minister Modi use the BJP's own logic that if the people have voted for a government after any policy, it is perfectly kosher? That is what they said after Article 370 was abrogated. So extend that same logic. If Prime Minister Nehru passed this ordinance in 1951 and won in 1952, the India and Indians deemed it okay. Who the hell are you to say anything today? And finally, if Prime Minister Modi has such a problem with reasonable restrictions on free speech, which is what Prime Minister Nehru did in 1951 to safeguard India's sovereignty, then the BJP government can stop using all those laws that curb free speech. They can stop arresting journalists, activists, academics, and politicians. You can't bake your cake and have it too. And one last thing, sorry, I forgot. The Prime Minister Modi also alluded to the Congress party's reservation bias. Firstly, unless I'm very mistaken, and please correct me, it was the Congress party which implemented reservations for SC/STs in jobs and education since the 1950. It set up the OBC Commission in 53, rolled out quotas for OBCs in 77 in Uttar Pradesh. The 27% for OBCs in jobs in 92 was again by Narasimha Rao government, and 27% for OBC reservations in higher education was in Manmohan Singh government in 2006. And now it is demanding caste census. Ironically, it is the Modi government that is declining to conduct the caste census. First in the Supreme Court in September 23rd, I think 2021, and then again in Parliament in August 23 by MOS Nityanand Rai. Then they have stopped state governments from conducting caste census, caste-based surveys, and he himself caricatured the caste census as an attempt to divide the country. Now, my point is, I genuinely hope that Prime Minister Modi wakes up and stops living in the past and starts focusing on what is happening today. His government is undermining the constitution with 1,000 cuts. There are grave issues that the BJP government has inflicted onto India. 80 crore people, Indians, are so poor that they're dependent on food handouts from the states. Our democratic dividend is completely frittered away because unemployment is at a historic 50-year high because of the Modi government, right? Manipur is burning, Punjab is simmering, terrorism is mushrooming in Jammu and Kashmir, immigration is at a historic high. How is the Modi government possibly have the moral authority or the temerity to accuse the Congress party or the India bloc of anything like what it has said it is?
No, but one quick question, Pushpraj, that all said and done, he put out all his facts, everything, emphatically, whatever he had to say. He had to lambast Nehru, he lambasted Rajiv Gandhi, he lambasted Indira Gandhi. He left no stone unturned, and he's talking about the current generation also of Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi, that they are against the constitution. But the point is that why didn't we see a very emphatic explanation coming from the India bloc, not specifically Congress, but I'm talking about the entire India alliance? Look at the way he was supporting his facts. Look at the way he was weaving his if you look at his speech, the way he started off and then he started weaving the instances. Why was there this emphatic, projection of thoughts, projection of facts? Why was it lacking with the India alliance parties?
I don't think that's true at all, Neeluji. I think collectively, if you see the speeches of Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, Mahua Moitra, Akhilesh Yadav, and a whole lot of other leaders, I think that they have been collectively able to articulate exactly what has gone wrong in the last 11 years, economically, socially, politically, and culturally. And I don't think that any of them have minced any words. Rahul Gandhi has not just given an ideological, broad ideological and normative answer and comparing and in fact putting the BJP on the dock by forcing them to acknowledge, I'm so sorry, by forcing them to acknowledge that their ideological parent, Savarkar, by ignoring their ideological parent, Savarkar, and the Manusmriti, and having to concede something that we have been wanting for them to say for the last 11 years. That is, it is the constitution alone that dictates what one should do and the government should do. So he has set the ideological normative pace for what the India bloc's goalposts are going to be. Every other leader, including Priyanka Gandhi, Mahua Moitra, Chandrasekhar Azad, although he's not part of the India bloc, and a whole range of other leaders, Praniti Shinde and others, have actually factually exposed the BJP's misdeeds and sins of omission and commission over the last 11 years. So I don't buy this argument. The problem is that the BJP is better placed at manufacturing consensus because they have a chokehold on the media and the social media. That's all. So Prime Minister Modi's speech is actually like a broken record. There was nothing new. I genuinely fell asleep. I actually kept thinking that I've heard the same speech literally 100 times in the last 11 years. The problem is because they have such a control on the media and social media, you and others like you and including me think that, wow, he's all over the place. He's not. He's really not. I mean, if you go around, people are not really listening to him. They're yawning and switching on the TV. He's like a commercial that people want to change. Honestly.
All right. Right. But Rajlakshmi, I was just looking at Priyanka Gandhi's reaction once the Modi's speech was over. And that's what exactly she has said, that he didn't say anything new. He bored everyone. After decades, I felt like I was back to school, attending a double period of maths. JP Nadda was nodding off, but pretended to be listening attentively when Modi looked at him. He listed 11 hollow pledges. If there is zero tolerance towards corruption, then have a debate on Adani. This is what she has said. I was just reading this
Yeah.
reaction. What would you really say to this? Yes.
Yeah, in the sense, of course, one has to agree with her on this because there was nothing in the speech. There was nothing in the speech. There's nothing substantive in the speech other than attacking the Congress and Parivarvad. As I said, it is not about a particular party, A or B or C. It is about the government's own achievements or non-achievements and a certain self-critical approach towards the constitution. Towards its own adaptation of the constitution and how it has managed to all the things that it has managed to do. The deliverables. Now, obviously, there was no talk about that at all. It was just reduced to the same old trope. Of cornering the opposition, attacking the Congress, as it were, and if she said that it was because this thing that she said about it being a period of double maths, which means that she didn't understand anything. There's nothing much to understand. It all went over her head, because there was nothing substantive in it. And it's true
No,
what
but
Mr. Raja.
Rajlakshmi, what do you think? Now BJP and the India bloc parties, they have their own narrative, and the ideological war is very, very clear now. But when it comes to constitution, so far, at least the impression was that the constitution has been appropriated by Congress and the India bloc parties. But now the entire effort, what Modi's speech clearly reflects, and the way he was quoting the instances, that what happened when 25 years of constitution got completed, then there was an emergency, then 60 years when it was completed, then he became the CM, and then he quotes about an incident where when he went on a Samvidhan Yatra as the chief minister of Gujarat, and he quotes about that, there was an elephant on which, we had taken out this entire Yatra of the constitution. So at the end of the day, because all this has gone on record, people of the future generations would compare Congress and BJP as what is the kind of stand which they have taken as far as constitution is concerned. Who has appropriated the constitution better? Is it now after Modi's speech? Is it BJP or is it the Congress party?
Well, in real terms, people ought to assess, in real terms, what is happening on ground. All these things are grand narratives, are posturing at best. But what is happening on ground today? Farmers are still being lathi charged at the borders of Punjab and Haryana for demanding a legal framework for MSP. It's as basic as that. Farmers in Western UP are being thrown into jail because they are demanding enhanced compensation as per the LARR Act, and I think that it should be indexed to inflation. I mean, these are the things today. These are the lived realities. So even though one may make all kinds of grand statements about how they have dealt with the constitution, or not dealt with the constitution, ultimately it is a lived realities, isn't it? The constitution is a dossier that addresses the lived realities of people. I mean, and those issues are still unaddressed. I mean, this whole thing about lathi charge during people when they were fleeing, they were going back to their homes during the pandemic. There are like innumerable instances. So for the Aam Aadmi, they actually do not relate, to these terms, and for them it's meaningless. And I think that the Prime Minister and his group of ministers, all the MPs who spoke on the issue, they really did not have anything substantive to say in terms of their achievables. So if you say that we have given water supply, drinking water to everybody in this country, and that the Congress did not do, come on, can you even say that as an achievement? I mean, of 75 years of independence. I mean, even if you did, you can't claim it as an achievement. I mean, it is a bounden duty. It is a bounden duty to provide these things: roads, free education, free health, accessible health care, good health care, affordable health care. Even today, the out-of-pocket expenditure is pretty high in a country that people spend on health care. Even today, you have a large number of people on contractual jobs, hire and fire. You cannot ensure right to livelihood. You cannot ensure right to employment, but you go about bulldozing homes. You don't allow people to sort of have food stalls because they happen to be of a particular denomination. You don't allow people to sell cattle, or even sell the flayed skins, because there's a constant fear of being lynched, that they'll be caught smuggling, smuggling cattle, etc. You don't allow people to have choice marriages today in this country. You don't allow people to even exercise their right to freedom of religion. I mean, if I want to convert to any other religion, I have to go through all the cumbersome processes. If I am a resident in a particular state, I have to take the permission of the DM, etc. If I want to have an interfaith marriage, what are you talking about? So this has been completely reduced to a farce. It's a complete farce. This farce about even having a debate on the constitution, and this entire manner in which the ruling party and the central government has sort of dealt with the issue of dealing with the constitution. It's a extremely frivolous approach, I would say, because it's absolutely non-serious. The opposition, yes, they would make those points, because they have to reflect the concerns of the people in the country. They can't
Absolutely.
simply whitewash the issues that are happening, isn't it? To that extent, I think that the opposition has played a more responsible role. I mean, I would say that they could have done more. Maybe, as you said,
Yes.
it could have been more coordinated, right? Instead of being piecemeal, it could have
Hmm.
been more coordinated, more systematic. So for that, a certain amount of coordination is needed, on the issues that need to be flagged. I mean, why there was no discussion on health at all? There was no discussion on education at all. There was nothing. There was no discussion on employment. I mean, all these things are sort of
True.
things that are constitutional issues. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'll come for the concluding comments to Pushparaj. What would you really say? Prime Minister Modi has spoken a lot about unity, diversity, and the kind of spirit. The framers of the constitution brought in a spirit, and he's carried forward that legacy with all the commitment. This is what he said. So what would you really say towards the end now?
I want to make four quick points.
Yeah.
Firstly, in his 2 hour, nearly 2 hour debate, right? That's almost like a
Almost.
full
Almost.
length, almost like a full length film. Uh,
Hmm.
in a 2 hour long debate, he did not mention Manipur or Sarvat
Yeah.
Harba Sambhav even once. This is
Hmm.
from the Prime Minister of India.
Yeah.
Secondly, these 11 promises that he pledges that he's made to India, before he or his government start working on them, I think the opposition and I think the people of India want to ask him about the promises he has made earlier. What happened about electricity for all by 2021? Housing for all by 2022, New India by 21, doubling of farmers' income by 22, right? 2 crore, was it 2 crore or 1 crore jobs? Something like that. 1 crore jobs, certainly I remember. 1 crore jobs every year. What has happened to those promises, right? He keeps saying that hum la lakh dikhayenge, to China. He's not able to get back 3,000 square kilometers land captured by China. Nepal is asking for our land. What kind? I mean, before you start making fresh pledges about Viksit Bharat and Amrit Bharat and any other Bharat that you want to make, can you please talk about what you promised in the last 11, 12 years? Deliver on those promises. That's the second point. The third thing is that, the Prime Minister, something is very funny to me. In Parliament outside India, Prime Minister Modi keeps talking about Gandhiji, Mahatma Gandhi, and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, his own party talks about Godse, Savarkar, Golwalkar. I mean, you can't have the two in your pocket. You're either you're either non-violent or you're violent. You're either with the Indian Constitution or you're against it. You can't have it. You can't have it both ways. I mean, this entire two-facedness is really. I mean, I'm finding this kind of theatrical, performative politics is just mind-boggling to me. And lastly, which is what I want to conclude with, I have come to expect a very high standard from at least India's prime minister. From whatever I have seen, they've all made mistakes. I'm not saying that any prime minister has been perfect, but they have conducted themselves of a manner that is befitting that high post. They have a certain sense of responsibility of where they are coming and whose footsteps they're following. Does it behove the prime minister in a debate on the constitution to actually attack predecessor governments and the opposition parties as if it's an election rally? Did today seem like a debate on in parliament? Honestly, it genuinely
True.
seemed to me as if I'm looking at an election rally, and that too at a municipal level, where two local municipal level councillor candidates are flinging mud at each other. That is what it seemed like. So I don't think that this was very. The prime minister has multiple times violated his Raj Dharma, and you know for a fact that he said Mangal Sutra chura lenge and buffaloes will be stolen and so on and so forth. So he's already crossed multiple Lakshman Rekhas. But what is new? When is he ever going to change? He's the prime
All right.
minister of our country, for God's sake.
Right. One quick point before we end the program, Raj Lakshmi, coming to you now.
Yeah.
That has the time been really wasted in the last 2 days? If opposition also has been able to express a lot of things, as what Pushparaj says, that no, they have been able to express at least and speak from the point of view of the people, citizens. But if you look at the 2 days in entirety in Lok Sabha, what is your assessment? Is it a wasted opportunity for a somber moment like this?
I think it is, Nilu. Sadly, it is. I did expect a certain, of course, as I think most people did. I think Pushparaj would have expected, you would have expected, a certain, certain level of debate. That is really sadly missing, and I would blame in fact, the ruling party and the government, because standards, should have been set by them. If they had set the discourse on a certain trajectory, okay, that is looking at themselves self-critically, I'm sure the opposition would also have looked at itself self-critically, and would have, and there would have been a serious attempt at this whole nation building process. So when you're all stakeholders, you see, but it was not about that at all. It was not at all about that. And it was just, again, sparring. It was about one-upmanship. It was picking up things piecemeal, and it was, as Pushparajan described, it was like a municipal election, essentially. I mean, at that level, it was not even see a serious election sparring, I'd say. you know so I think it was a wasted opportunity. It's really sad. One hoped that because the fact is that
Right.
there are good speakers.
Right.
It's not that even within the BJP there are people who have come through a certain process political learning, and it's not that all of them are bigoted or sort of completely and they have something to offer,
Yeah.
other than just do Hindu Muslim. I'm sure they have
Absolutely.
something to offer, but that was completely missing. I mean, everybody's speech. you know.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Pushpraj, you had raised your hand. Just unmute yourself. Yeah. Pushpraj, are you there? Oh,
Yes,
his
it's frozen.
frame is frozen. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we'll have to end it here. Thank you so much, Pushpraj. I don't know whether he's able to hear me or not. And thank you so much,
Thank,
Rajlakshmi, for joining. Thank you very
thank you,
much.
Neelu. Thanks.
Thanks.